Hey, thanks for taking time to check out this video on how to customize your ThinkorSwim to fit the Parabolic Trading method. This video really is being designed for the students of the Parabolic Trading Bootcamp that are learning how to trade through swing trading and day trading. But really this video is for anybody who wants to be able to set up their layouts for ThinkorSwim that would be similar to mine, that allows them the ability to be able to monitor different trades through different time frames using the more commonly used moving averages and indicators that a lot of traders use, whether on their swing charts or on their intraday. So the first thing I like to do, first off, I'm going to go click the charts, right? And I always link I have my link the same as for my news, right? So I'll go and I'll change it. I'm going to change these all to 1. So typically what I'll do is whatever watch list I have, whether it's through pot stocks or whatever your personal list is, or if you have a certain scan that you have pre-programmed that gives you results, and then you can add this as your watch list. But we'll show you how to set up the watch list a little bit later on. The first thing we want to do is we want to focus on setting up our daily chart, right? So I like the daily chart. This is where I get all my ideas for every single trade that I take, whether it's a swing trade or a day trade. Every idea comes from my daily chart. If I don't have a good daily chart, a nice price pattern on my daily chart, it's not really something I'm looking to take intraday, right? So I get my direction and my cues from my daily. If a daily tells me I have a strongly trending stock that's going up, right? I'm in an uptrend. That's something I might be interested in taking intraday. I don't want to trade counter trend, right? I'm a trend trader. That's how I learned to trend trade from my mentor, and it's been very profitable for me. So the first thing I like to do is I like to go into this little gear icon, right? And I want to set things up to my liking, right? So the first line here, I look at it and it's okay, right? Everything looks fine. I don't really want to change much. On the second tab, right, I do like to fit the high lows inside my charts, right? I want to automatically fit my high lows, especially on my daily chart. I want to be able to see what the low of the last year was and the high of the last year is, right? Now you could also do things like fit your orders if you have an open order. I don't really do that. I do like to fit my studies and fit my study markers, right? Because I can always zoom in and out if I need to. On the time axis, right? The option for daily, I keep this keep time zoom. I keep it unchecked. What keep time zoom does is let's say we enable it and we'll apply it, right? And let's say that I decide I want to zoom in just for this area and I want to look at it. Now, if it's unchecked, when I change to another chart, it'll zoom all the way back out. That will give me the entire year, which is what I want to see. But now if I keep it checked, right, this is what happens. Say I check on another stock, what's going to happen is the same time period I'm looking at right now for this SPY, it's going to show the same for Crone. See? But now if I go up here and I uncheck this, I go back over to the time axis, uncheck the keep time zoom, right, and click apply and OK. Now when I go and I click on ACB, it's going to take me out and show me the entire year rather than what I zoomed in on the previous stock. So see, I get the entire year. So again, this is nice because I can quickly look and see where's the high of the year, right? Where's the high for the last year, and I see where the low is. So I can kind of tell. I can quickly look at this and see that this stock has been in a horrible downtrend from a year ago, right? This caused me a lot of heartburn in the past, good and bad. Like I've had good days on this and I've had bad days on this, but this is one of the stocks I've grown to absolutely hate. So I'm rooting for it to go to zero. Sorry for all you ACB holders, but it's junk, right? So I go back under here to the gear, right? So I'll make sure I have everything set up the way I like. Now I trade on multiple time frames, right? I like to align on multiple time frames. I realize that let's say my preferred method of trading is I use my daily and I use a 5-minute chart the majority of the time. There are times where, like maybe the opening range of the morning, like the opening from 9:30 to 10:30, I will use a 2 minute chart because sometimes if you're into a hot stock, it's going to move much more quickly, and a 2 minute chart will get me into a trade much faster, especially for some of the patterns that I've learned, and now that some of my students are learning as well. It will get me into a trade much quicker, right? So I'm able to maximize my profits much earlier rather than having to sit and wait for a 5 minute candle to develop to show me a pattern. But I like to, I also understand this is that just because I trade 5 minutes doesn't mean everybody in the market is trading with a 5 minute chart. So I like to see how people are trading from a 2 minute chart, a 5 minute chart, a 15-minute chart, and an hour chart. And this is strictly just for my intraday trading. And certain patterns will show up easier. Certain patterns will emerge and be easier for me to identify on a different time frame. So for instance, if you're trading on a 2 minute chart, you're getting a new candle every 2 minutes, right? So sometimes it's more difficult to identify a pattern on a 2 minute chart. The more time that elapses, sometimes the easier the pattern. Like I can see a pattern much easier on a 15-minute chart because the candles are slower, right? And they'll give me a different view of the way that stock is trading on a 15-minute chart. Now, if I have if all five of all, I'm sorry, all four of my time frames are aligned, what I like to do is I get confirmation across multiple time frames. So if I'm able to align through multiple time frames, I get that extra degree of confirmation that the trade that I'm either longing or shorting is being confirmed, right? It's being confirmed across multiple time frames. I'm not relying on just one time frame to give me what I'm looking for. So what I do is I go and I click add time frame, I click intraday, I click the time interval, and I go up, and I'm going to do this 4 times. And I'm going to do this for a 2 minute, and then add. Then I'm going to go back up, and I'm going to do intraday. I'm going to go today, and then I'm going to go down to 5 minute because I like 5 minute. And today, all today is going to do is show me the candles from today. It's not going to show me anything prior. I really don't care about that. If I'm day trading, I only care about the action from today. If I need to refer back to, let's say, yesterday's high, I can put the previous close on here from yesterday, right? Or if I need to see what yesterday's high is, I can always go back to my daily chart. It's just the best way to do it for me. Again, you're going to customize this and make it the way it's going to feel good for you. I'm just trying to show you how I'm teaching my students to set up their charts and how I expect my students to have their charts set up to align with how I'm teaching them, right? So I've got a 2, a 5, a 15, and then of course, like I said, I like to do an hour. So now I have multiple time frames aligned, right? So I apply that. And then for my day trading charts, I don't fill my candles up. It just really just comes more from the charting software that I prefer to use for my charting, which is TC2000. I will actually add some videos on how I set my charts up for TC2000 at a later date. What I do like to do is I like to change the background to black, and I like to turn the grid off because it's just cleaner and easier for me to see. I don't like all this gray. I don't like all the grid lines and stuff. I don't really care about all that stuff, right? If I really need to find out where I'm at in a stock or what a price is, I've got the cursor that will give me the up and down, the time, like, well, on the daily chart, the date, and then the actual price, right? And then I do change one more thing. I turn off the volume subgraph. The reason I turn off the volume subgraph is one, I don't like it, and it doesn't tell me everything I need to know. It tells me the volume, right? And I could change the colors that would give me the red and green candles. However, it doesn't give me the moving averages, which is what I'm looking for. I want to be able to see at a glance, is the volume, higher than average or lower than average of its volume. So once I get all this done, now I'm ready to set up my daily chart with my moving averages. So to set up our daily chart, we're going to click the little beaker icon here, which is Edit Studies. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in EXP. So we're going to first add the moving average exponential. And the first thing I'm going to do, now I always use a 9 EMA. It's what I was taught, and it's how I learned, right? So I don't like to see bubbles on the side of my screen. I like to keep my chart as clean as possible. I'm already going to have a lot of stuff on here, so I don't want to make it worse than what it really is. So what I'll do is I'll click bubble, and I'll click off the show bubble, click OK. So now I have a 9. So just in case you didn't see, the length of the period is 9, and I always use the light blue color. I don't care what kind of chart I'm using, whether it would be the daily, the intraday. I always try to keep my numbers the same color. So when I'm looking at a daily chart, let's say for instance my 9 EMA, it's always going to be light blue no matter what kind of chart I'm using, right? On my daily, now for my daily and my intraday, on my daily I use a 20 simple moving average. On my intraday I use a 20 exponential average, but I still use the same color because at least when I know I'm on a daily chart, I always know that my 20 is going to be yellow. On my daily, my 20 is always going to be yellow. So I know no matter what I'm looking at, the yellow line is always going to be my 20. So the next thing we're going to add now is we're going to add the simple moving average. We're going to click this 3 times, right? 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go into each one and we're going to set it up specifically for the time frame we're looking for. So what I like to do is I like to change my first period to 20. I'm going to go down here, I'm going to click off show bubble because I don't care about that. I'm going to click the color icon here and I'm going to pick yellow. And then I'm going to click apply. Now I've got my 9 EMA up here and I've also got my 20. Now we also have other lines up here, but it's because we haven't changed these other ones yet. So we're going to click the next one. Now the third moving average I use on my daily is a 50. And I use a 50. I click off the show bubble because I don't want to see bubbles over here. I don't need to see all these things. I just need to know where my price action is. And I like to use white because I think white to me strikes as average, right? White is just, it's neutral. So, and that's my intermediate time frame. So I want to go ahead and I want to select the 50 and I got white for it. So I go ahead and apply. So now my 50 shows up. And then the last moving average that I use is a 200, right? So this is my long term, this is my longer term time moving average, right? So I like this to be something red, right? I like this to be much different. And of course, I like to turn the bubble off of that one as well. All right, so now I've got my 4 moving averages. I got my 9 EMA, I got my 20 SMA, I've got my 50 SMA, and I got my 200 SMA. Now I need a volume, right? I don't want just regular volume, I want volume average, right? So I'll select the volume average, add selected. Now it goes on a 50, right? So I like that. That's good. I usually keep, I'll usually change the color to a white because again, every time I see white, I know it's a 50. It don't matter what it is, it's 50, right? So on my intraday charts, if I see a white line, it's a 50. If I see a yellow line, it's a 20. Whether it's an EMA or a SMA, it's still a 20. It makes it easier for me to keep things aligned. So as you see here, right? So now this looks much better than the other volume that we had. And we've got our moving average that goes through our volume that tells me what the average volume is. And I can see on days when we have higher than average volume, and I can see on days when we have lower than average volume. So again, it allows me to see the way volume is impacting this stock on a daily basis. The other things I like to use, the other things that I learned how to use was, let's see, well, we don't want to do that one. Anytime that you add something incorrectly, you can just click the little X button here and it'll get rid of it. I want to go back up here. Now I also use, I use stochastics. I think there was supposed to be like full stochastics is what I think it is. We'll go ahead and we'll click this. Now, obviously stochastics is 80 is going to be your overbought and 20 is going to be your oversold, right? I like this. I will keep the bubble on to this because frankly, when I add stochastics to this, the only thing I care about is that number, right? So as we see, I just care about this number. I don't really care about the rest of it. You know, I don't care. I don't look at these lines. I don't look at them and say, oh, well, this is a real. I'm looking at the only thing I care about is really this number. And then, of course, I like to have as much real estate as possible. So what I'll do is I'll just click and I'll drag these things down to give myself more room. The more I want my charts to have the most room. I want to be able to see my volume and I want to see my stochastic. So this is not a bad setup. Now the other thing that we could add to our chart, oh, wrong one here. The other thing we could add to our chart that I do teach my students, I don't really like the Bollinger Bands on ThinkorSwim. Um, they just they're not my thing, right? And for Bollinger Bands, they can be kind of they mess my chart up a lot, right? So again, we want to go in here to our Bollinger Bands. We want to click this. We want to change. I'd like to have my colors be the same. I don't want multiple colors because the more lines you have up here, the harder it's going to see. Now the reason why I like TC2000 is it allows me to shade, so I can shade this entire area in between my Bollinger Band. So when a candle gets outside a Bollinger Band to the upside or the downside, it's much easier to spot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick some really bizarre color here. Like, I'm just going to pick something maybe neutral. We'll just do the gray for both. We'll click this and we'll do gray. So this right here now, once we apply, see our Bollinger Bands. I don't, it's, yeah, I can see it and it works, but to me, it just makes my chart a little harder to see. But again, this is why I prefer to use TC2000, especially when I'm doing a lot of my charting thing. But this is how we could set our chart up. So I'll go ahead and leave this up here because this is for demonstration purposes. One last thing is we want to go into the stochastics and we want to change the K period and the day period, right? So the day period is going to be 5 and the K period is going to be 3. So we want to change this to 3 and we want to change this to 5. All right. And then the other thing too that we want to do is we want to go back to the Bollinger Bands and we want to click to show off the bubble so we can get rid of these bubbles here. Again, I just want to see price action. If I see a lot of this other stuff up here, it's really hard to. We got to go and click off show bubble, and you have to do it for each of the thing, the midline, the lower band, and the upper band. Otherwise, you're going to have 3 different bands that are up here. Now you got extra lines. Once we do that, we get rid of them. So we don't have all these extra bubbles now. This is good. So this right here, excuse me, this is a perfect daily chart. How you could get all your trading ideas from this, just strictly from the daily chart. In a moment here, we'll set up my intraday chart and how I like to do that, including the active trader. So you could actually set up your entire trade window where you can trade from it, see your level 2, time of sales, and things like that. But again, this is a perfectly set up daily chart, so I can get all my ideas. So let's just say that I go to let's say I got my stock list that I usually watch for plays for today. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this here because I don't really watch it, and I want to give myself a little bit more room. So see, we're all linked up. We both have the same number 1. I can select. Now, the other thing that you can do, a lot of people don't really realize this, but in ThinkorSwim on your watch list, you can add additional columns to your watch list, right? Now, I like to know what the volume of a stock is, right? Because I don't want to get into a stock that's not liquid. And what I'll do is I'll move these things up. Like I really don't care so much about the bid and ask on there. I keep them up there if I need to see them really quick. And honestly, they're a lot easier to see from a watch list than it is from up here. These numbers are kind of small, but I like to add that. And sometimes the other thing I love to do is it's hard to know whether a stock is able to be shorted through ThinkorSwim. So I like to add the hard to borrow, easy to borrow option up there to my watch list. So at any point, if I see a stock that looks like it might be something I want to short, I can just look at the list and be like, okay, well, I can borrow this, right? It's easy to borrow, so I can short this with no problem. If it's hard to borrow, then you've got to make contact with TD Ameritrade and see if they will allow you to short that stock, or if you have to pay an additional fee, which kind of really sucks. But again, this is just a simple way to set up my daily chart. So what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll give myself a little bit more room. So I just take my cursor, put it over here, bring it out. Now I got my easy, hard to borrow, easy to borrow. I got my volume, so it tells me what kind of volume I have. Now I would never trade a list like this. Like I would never watch all these stocks. These are just stocks I kind of put on my temporary list that for my simulated trading, right? If I'm trying to maybe back test a pattern to see, make sure that maybe I understand it. So again, we can do column sorts here. They can tell us what stocks were heavily traded today. We can see SPY was trading 113 million shares. Space, another stock that recently has just gone bonkers. Like that's hot. I missed it. Look at that. That's a great move, right? Here's the other thing that you can add. To it. I don't know how beneficial it is. Some people find it really beneficial. Some people have a hard time understanding how to draw trend lines. You can also add an auto trend line to your stock, right? And again, you want to make sure your support lines are all the same color. Now, since I already have a red on here for my 200 moving average, I don't want multiple red things. I don't want red candles. I don't want red line. Now I'm going to also have a red thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to something that is really out there. Like I'm going to go into the deep color picker and I'm going to pick like this really disgusting looking pink, right? Because again, I want things that are easy to see. I'm not really worried about my masculinity, right? I'm not worried about, I'm a guy and I got this hot pink on there. I want things that are easy to see. I don't care what color it is, anything bright that I can sit from across the room and it shows up great on this black background. So we'll go ahead and we'll click this here. Now you can add this, right, and you'll get automatic trend lines. Sometimes they're really, really good and sometimes not. But like right here, it's giving me some ideas. Hey, if a stock breaks a certain trend, it may be something I might want to take, right? I will never rely strictly on these trend lines to give me the idea or entry, but it's a nice guide, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for signals that we could use to build a case in order to take a trade. So I like this. This works for me, right? Like again, I can go down an entire list at any point. So let me just take off some of these old studies here, or these drawing sets here. So I can go down the list, right, at any point, and I can go down and I can look at the daily charts and I can see potentially stocks that give me ideas for trades that I might want to take, right? Now sometimes, like I said, this trend line, those are kind of all over the place, right? Not how I would draw them. It's not where I would be drawing things, but again, they could be ideas. Sometimes if they're a problem, if they cause too much confusion for you, you go back in here, take them right off. Now we're good to go. This stock was hot the last couple of days, but again, I'm easily able to just cycle through and see stocks that give me ideas for things I may or may not want to trade. So that's how I set up my daily chart. Now, what I like to do, so this is ideas strictly for dailies, right? What I also like to do is I like to set up my intraday chart, right? I like to set mine up a little bit different. Again, like I said, I like to trade on multiple time frames. And here's the thing. First off, the first thing we're going to do is if you click, let me show you what I just did. So let's get it back to where it was. So if you want to create additional boxes, you can either click this and it will put a window above, right? It will give you another box up here. I'm going to get rid of that. Or we can go to the side, right? So it will give you multiple things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 3 of these, right? So they're all equal. Now, the nice thing about this is how I make my 6 window layout, right? So on average, I'm watching 6 stocks. Sometimes I'll watch 12 depending on how much focus I have that day. or if there's some plays I'm not real confident in, I might want to watch multiples. And if you have a multiple monitor setup like I do, you could take this and you could detach it and move it to another screen, and everything will all be perfectly linked up, right? So you'll be able to watch your stocks and be able to get in and out. But this is not what we're doing for this. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take this and we want to click red, right? We want to link. We want all these to be linked to the same thing. Now they're not all going to be charts, but we're going to change all these here shortly. So the first thing I like to do, right, is we've got to set up our intraday chart. We got to set up our intraday chart. So let's give ourselves a little bit more room here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to redo the same things we just did, right? We're going to go back in here. We're going to, I like to fit the higher low. Not as important for the day, but I do like to have it up there. For time zoom, I do keep this checked for each of these boxes. And we're going to make this really simple, right? So watch this. So we're going to keep the time zoom. So now when we zoom in on something, it's going to show us what, if we change to another stock, it's going to show us the same time frame. Because if I've zoomed in and I'm really focused on the last 2 hours, right? Because it's only showing me candles for today. But if I'm looking for the last 2 hours, I don't want to have to keep zooming in on a stock after I change to another one, especially if I'm going through a whole bunch of them really quickly. And then of course we already have our time that we've already edited. I go here and what I'm going to do is click the black, the background, change it to black, get rid of the grid. I don't really care about the color symbol of 6. I mean, if you don't want to have the moving average in there, you can just click the color as symbol ticks and it will change it. So we'll get rid of this anyways. We'll get rid of this in a second. We'll go over here to our volume subgraph and we're going to remove that as well. So now if we do it to each one manually, it'd take us a while, right? So first off, let's just set up our daily chart and I'm going to show you how you can save a style and save it, and then we can go and apply it to the same thing. So just like our daily chart, I like to add the exponential moving average, right? That's one of my first indicators I add. And then I'm going to hit it again for a second time because we're going to add a second one. So the first one I like to click, make sure that I got 9 and it's light blue, and I click off show bubble. The next one, we're going to click the gear icon. We're going to change this to 20. And if you notice, there is a difference between my daily with the 20 and apparently I'm just going to go ahead and click this. It's easier. And then I'm going to change this to yellow. But like I said, you're going to notice the difference between my daily, which has a simple moving average for the 20, and this is an exponential. But I keep it the same number, I keep it the same color, right? Because it's easier for me to identify on any given chart. And then the other thing we're going to add, well, we got 2 more things to add. We're going to add a VWAP, right? We're going to add the VWAP. Now here's the thing about VWAP. You're going to have to go up here and you're going to have to take the up and you're going to put it to change it to 0, and you have to change the down and up to zeros. If you don't change them to zeros, you're going to have multiple lines and you're really not going to know where the hell your VWAP is, right? And I also like to keep my VWAP orange. No matter what charting software I use, this is the same setup I use. I use the same color scheme because, again, if I'm on TC2000, I know anytime I see a light blue, it's my 9 EMA. Anytime I see a yellow, depending on the chart, if I'm looking at a daily, it's going to be my 20 SMA. If it's on my intraday, it's my 20 EMA, right? So the last thing we need to add to our daily chart here is volume. Now, again, I like volume average, right? It gives me the idea of what's going on. I don't really care about the bubble. I mean, you could keep the bubble on. It's fine. It doesn't really bother me as much as it does for my daily. Again, I can just kind of look and see, okay, I can, when it's green, you've got increasing volume. But again, this is all I really care about. I just want to see increasing of volume. So now this is my daily, this is my intraday chart. So let's change over here to one of our time frames, right? So let's just say I'm doing 5 minutes. This is my intraday chart, right? This is how I trade. And again, if I had a 6 window layout, I would just apply this to each one, right? So I would have six daily charts, or sorry, 6 intraday charts that allows me to watch 6 different stocks, right? So what I'm going to do, since these are all going to be intraday, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to click on style, and I want to save style. So we're going to call this Parabolic Intraday YouTube. And now what I can do is I can also click include patterns and study set. So what this is doing, so if I save the style, it's just going to save the way I have my chart setting up, like colors and schemes and things like that. So we'll turn off the volume subgraph. If I also include patterns and study set, what we just did for adding our 9 EMA and a 20 EMA, the VWAP and the volume pattern will automatically save with it. So now, remember, I said I like to trade on multiple time frames, right? So let's say I've got, this is my 5, or we'll change this to my 2, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to my 2. So I change, this will be my 2-minute. This will be my 5-minute, right? Oh, but guess what? We haven't applied anything yet. Now I can go over here and turn off the sidebar, right? So I can get a cleaner view. We can go over here. Now sometimes we have to scroll out a little bit to get to our styles. We go to style, we click load style, we'll go down and we'll select what we just did, Parabolic Intraday YouTube, and guess what? Now we're good there. Now we don't need this sidebar. So then we can go back and we can adjust things accordingly so they all kind of line up and they look nice and pretty. So obviously I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to change this from daily to 15. And then I'm going to look for my style, and I'm going to do the load style for the Intraday YouTube. So now I've got my 15, and I'm going to take this off, right? So I've got my, well, I thought we had 15. Let's click it. There we go. 15. So we got our 15-minute chart. Now, the one thing I do like to do for my intraday charts is I do like to go back in, and I do like to fill up my candles. So I could do that, and we could have actually done that to begin with, and then just added it to our save our style. Well, here you go. So let's do this. Let's go to save style. Right, so we're going to include that in there, and then we can just go back and reapply the style. See, now we got candles, right? Now, of course, we'll have to go back and make sure we have our time frames because it will save it on the 15-minute one. But we get everything all set up the way we like it. Let's get a step back over here. We could go down, we could right click and you can do load style. Now that's one applied there. Now we want to change this one to 1 hour. So now I have multiple time frames set up. So I'm able to customize this the way I like. So I'm good there. Now I don't need sidebars on these because all I need to see, right? All I need to see is my charts. Now what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click off. Well, first I'm going to do the active trader, right? So I'm going to click trade, and then I'm going to click off, I'm sorry, active trader. So we're going to click off the trade. We're going to click off the chart. So now we have our active trader window, right? This is nice. So it's all linked up. Let's see, we'll click off the trade here. Now this is what I like to do. I like to auto send my things, but we also can customize this window here. If we click the gear icon, we can also, because the only thing you have up here right now, you have buy market, sell market. We're not always going to want to buy market, sell market. So I like to add buy ask, buy bid, right? I also like to add sell ask, sell bid, and I also like to put time in force. That's what the TIF is. So after I add the things I want to add, I'll go down here and then I'll move them up. So I like to kind of keep my stuff grouped together. I go to buy ask, I bring it up, So if I got buy market, sell market, I want to keep my buy ask, sell ask together. I got that there. Then I got buy bid, sell bid. And then I also like to bring my time of force up around the so we, as you can see here, we have our buy market, sell market, buy ask, sell ask. It's got sell ask in the menu, and now on the button it says join ask. So this is a sell ask. Buy the bid is considered joining the bid, and selling the bid is actually selling the bid, right? But again, this is nice because now I actually have buttons where I can quickly select how many shares of a stock I want to open a position in. You also have the ability to a template where you can just do a single order, and then you can select the time of day, whether you want it just to be during regular market hours, you want your order to be good till canceled. This will be extended hours, and this is good till canceled during extended hours. The other thing that you can do is targeting with bracketing is much easier. Now it's kind of hard to see this, so I'm going to turn this off for just a moment here, right? For customized grid, all those things go away. Now the nice thing is I can actually decide if whatever I decide if I'm going to buy market. Say I'm going to buy 500 shares of this at market, I can automatically put an emergency dollar stop loss in on the trade, and I can automatically give myself a target, whether it wants to be a buck, $2, whatever I want to make it, right? You can click your little buttons here, or if you want, you can say, look, I want a $3 target. Also, you can change your types of orders, whether you want to be a limit and then the time of day, or if I want this to be a trailing stop, maybe I only want this. I want a trailing stop. Maybe the stock's running quickly, and I want to make sure I can lock in as much profit. So maybe I give it a 10-cent stop loss, and then once I submit it, it'll show up in my active trader window. Now, I like to give myself a lot of room on active trader. So the problem I have here is I need to go back to customize grid. So maybe I don't want this, right? Maybe I get rid of this. So now we're like, oh, well, what am I going to do, right? So I can add maybe a level 2, right? Or maybe I can do this as well. I can go back to, maybe I can show the sidebar for this. And maybe I want to do a level 2 over here. Well, don't like that, right? That's not working. So maybe I just want to keep a level 2 to the side. Whoops. Guess what? We got rid of something here. So all we do is go back and hit the plus. It will give us another screen. And then we can go back to style. And we can do low style, parabolic YouTube. And then we can change this back to our hour, right? So we can give ourselves extra things. So what we want is we want to give ourselves enough room to really see how we can trade or active trader. We want as much room as possible. Like that's what I really want. So we get rid of that sidebar there. So now for this, we also need to link this, right? Because right now we can't do anything. Once we link it to this, we can turn off that. We can hit our time of sales, right? Which is nice. We want our time of sales. We can also turn off the chart. So the chart goes away. So we're looking for time and sales, and we also have level 2. Now, the reason this is blank is because there's nothing going on right now in the market, right? The market's closed. So once we have everything all set up, we can kind of give ourselves a little bit more room. Again, I like to give myself more room up on my 2 and 5 minute charts. And if you really wanted to, you don't even have to really use a 2, 5, and 15 and 1, right? This is only for the first hour. So what you really could do, right? So we can go back to our charts, right? So let's say we like this style for our daily. So let's save this, right? We're going to save this as Parabolic Trading, or we'll call it Parabolic Daily YouTube. And we're going to include our patterns and our study set in it, right? We can go back over to our flexible grid, and we can make this our daily, right? We can go back in here. And the reason I like doing this, I mean, like typically, this is how I would have my charts if I wasn't using it for opening range. Like I'll change this to a 2 minute, right? So we can go here, we can do style, load style, daily YouTube. So now look, we've got our daily chart. So at any point, if I want to, let's go ahead and turn off the sidebar for this. And now we go up here and we're going to get rid of the customized grid. I can at any point go down a list of stocks, right? Maybe I have a scan. So let's see. Maybe I have a scanner. So let's see here. Let's say I want to look at I want to look for liquid gainer stocks that are up 10% or more. So if, say I'm getting ready for the market, say the market was open tomorrow, and maybe I want to go through this list here, I could do this. I could get myself an idea on what the chart looks like and whether or not I would want to take a potential trade in it, right? I can just scroll down here. So I've got my daily chart here. I'm able to look at my daily chart. And then when I'm actually in the middle of the day trading, I have my intraday charts, you know, my 5, my 15, and my hour. They still give me really, really good multiple time alignment, but you also need to align with your daily chart as well, right? Because if your daily sucks, nothing else is going to work. But again, you can just go down the list here. So now I'm actually able to trade across. I mean, look, that's hot. Like on these, you had some red candles. On an hour, you had no red candles. That's pretty awesome, right? That's pretty hot. I like that. I mean, it's not a big dollar stock, but on your 15, you still had some red candles. So it's nice to be able to see how the trading day works for other people. People are trading on a 5 minute. This is what they see. So I know if I'm trading on this and everything's aligning on multiple time frames, I can get into a trade, and I have stronger than normal confirmation that my idea is potentially going to work, right? I have greater probability it's going to work. But this is why I like doing things the way they have it set up, or the way I had this set up here is it gives me 4 time frames, so I'm able to go through, look at a daily chart, see something. If I see a pattern that sticks out to me, then awesome. Now, if this is too much, like you're getting too much information or you can't see enough here, we could realistically go into our settings. Let's see. We'll have to actually pull this out a little bit here and this is only what I would do for the daily. You go in the time axis, right? So if you want to, this is where you might want to keep it time zoomed in. So let's say that I just really care about, something that is recent. So maybe I scroll in here. I just want a little bit better idea. Maybe this might be a good time where you don't want to have your studies fit. So you go in here to your gear, you click your price axis. Maybe we don't want to fit our study in our study markers, right? Maybe we don't really care about that. So now our view is a lot different. We're a little bit more zoomed in. Maybe I need to see a little bit more. So now I can go onto my watch list, go down here, and I'm all zoomed in, so I get better views as opposed to seeing this far out. Because again, it's really hard to kind of see. I mean, you can see the trend of a stock, but can you really see a pattern clearly? No. But I already have an idea, because again, I use this to generate my ideas to tell me, so I get a lot more and I can see a lot more. And if I really need to zoom in, I can still get better vision of the candles. So that's how I set this up, right? Now, if I want to take a trade, I go back to my flexible grid and I can take a trade, right? So let's just say that the market was open and I decide I want to buy 500 shares with a trailing stop loss of 10, right? Or I want to take a $3 target. As soon as I hit buy market, it's going to place an order, right? So when this order gets filled, all of a sudden my trailing stop will be 10 cents below it, and if it reaches my $3 target, then it will automatically sell. And if for some reason I don't like how I have things set up, so let's say here, so let's just say this is how normally when I get into a trade, if I use ThinkorSwim, and I don't really use ThinkorSwim much anymore, I use MedVed Trader just because it's awesome. and it's a nice front end that gives me um, same great charting capabilities, but I just feel like I'm more versatile in my trades, right? So my stop loss is going to be this is like your default. So let's say I'm going to do this is my default. Um, so let's say I decide I want to hurry up and get in the stock. Maybe it's running. Maybe I'm trying to catch this right here. Now, normally I wouldn't chase, but as soon as the stock is running, I want to get into the trade. I ain't got time to sit here and, you know, map everything out to the penny, right? So maybe I know where my stop loss is, but I don't have time to sit here and calculate and then put in the exact stop loss. So what I'll do is I'll put in an emergency stop loss. I'll go ahead and I'll hit buy market. And then what I'll do is maybe I will see, I've got a trailing stop again. That's not what I wanted. Let's go ahead and we'll cancel out of this and we'll do it again. This time it'll come up perfectly. So I set my market price, right? So I've got a dollar stop loss. So it's telling me that look, if it comes down a dollar and I get stopped out, I'm gonna lose 500 bucks, right? You know, I don't want that. But maybe I want to change my buy price. You can actually click on your trades and you can move them up. Or the other cool thing that you can do is you can say you don't like your stop loss, you want to move it up, you can move it through here. What I'll usually do is when I'm in a trade and I'm profiting and I want to stop my stop loss up, I'll just trail it up. I'll just keep trailing it up. And seeing because I have auto send on, it automatically updates and cancels the other one and then updates a new one. So I like this, right? So I'm able to lock in my profits a lot easier. And if I'm busy and I don't have time to, maybe I'm in a multiple position, like I have multiple trades I'm taking, and I don't have time to sit and watch the stock, but the stock is running. I'll change it to a trailing stop. So at some point, I'll get stopped out, but I'm just going to keep trailing up so I can keep getting the most profit I can. But this is how I have it set up. Now, so again, I have a 4 monitor setup, and I like to set mine up in a different way. So what I like to do, like I'll share with you uh, my setup. So again, what I showed you was fine. So this is my daily chart, right? So this is how I get all my ideas, and it may look a little bit different. Like, again, I don't put Bollinger Bands and stuff on here, and I don't have my stochastics on here, probably like I should, right? But again, I have TC2000, and right now I have 4 different monitors, and I'm going to bring each screen down, and I'm going to show you. So on my top left screen, this is what I have. I have a daily chart. So anytime I select anything on a watch list, this will change accordingly, and I'll be able to see exactly what's on my daily chart. Now, this next one, this is my upper right hand monitor, right? This is how I have my active trader set up, right? So I have a lot of ability to move in and out about a stock, right? So I can scroll to the place where I want to put my stop loss or my um, where I want to buy, etc. Like my limit orders and stuff. I like this, and then of course I got all my time of sales over here. But again, this is my daily chart, right? Or I'm sorry, this is my intraday chart. So this is my 5 minute chart. This is the one I usually trade a good portion of the day. So I keep one of those charts up on another thing. Now, when I said before, this is, I have a 6 window chart. This is what I do. So like I'll put 6 stocks that I'm watching on different windows, and they all have my same indicators. I'm able to see all my volume. I'm able to see all the information I need, so I can see if a stock's running early, right? So again, this is what I like. I like to be able to keep an eye on 6 stocks without having to constantly click, 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 click through everything. And this is how I have my chart set up. So at any given point, maybe I want to look at, so I had to, of course, I have my SPY here. And then typically what I'll usually do is I will change one of these to my plays for the day. So like I'll have whatever my watch list for the day for the stocks I'm considering, not just the stuff on my 6 watch list, but I'll have other stocks that maybe I'm looking for day two continuation plays, or maybe I'll have stocks that I think will be great candidates for swings that I will put on there that are not ready today that may be ready later in the week. But I want to put them on there so I can kind of keep an eye on them to see when the opportunity presents itself for me to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to constantly keep relying on scans. Typically, what I'll do here is like I'll keep like my current account positions open, right? So whatever position I have open on a stock, this is like so this way here I'm able to get in and out of a trade, right? So if I have a stock here, I don't want to have to go back through my watch list to find it, and it's just a pain in the ass to go. Well, now I got to go type it in. It's easier to have it all linked. So anytime I have an open position, I can see exactly where I'm at, and that's how I set up my daily and my intraday charts. So, I mean, you can do other things like I do keep a SPY chart up so I can kind of see how SPY is acting throughout the day. And typically, I'm usually more zoomed in, but obviously, it's just showing me the entire day. But I'm able to see how SPY is acting. So, at some point, like right here, when it starts rolling over, you know, I'm not really looking to open a lot of long positions, right? Because again, I want to make sure that I'm trading in within the trend of the market. So I let the market dictate whether I'm longing or shorting a stock. And honestly, it's how I became quite profitable, and that's what I learned from my mentor. I'm a trend trader, right? That's how I've been taught. That's how I've been learned, right? So now the one thing we can do here is, let's see, I got this custom. Let's see. So when I said this is how I set things up, like so, this custom here needs to I take it off real quick. All right, so how I have my column set up is I like to know what well, yeah, of course I like to know what the last price is. I like to know how many volumes or how many shares the stock is doing, right? Because I need to know if it's liquid. Can I get in and out of a stock, right? I also like to know what the float of a stock is. I want to see how many shares are outstanding. I also add the hard to borrow, easy to borrow, because again, if I see a stock, let's say for instance, this stock space, right? This stock has just been awesome the last several days. Well, on my intraday chart, right? Let's see if I go to the intraday chart for space here, like we can see that there is yeah, I mean it's just there was opportunities to short, especially in the beginning this morning, right? But it's hard to borrow. So the last thing I want to do is get all excited about seeing a stock that I might be able to short, and then go to put in an order, and then it says rejected because not available. You got to call this number to get access. So I'd rather just look at it and save myself the aggravation. But maybe at some point, yeah, I probably wouldn't have shorted on at this point today. But at some point, you get stocks that you can counter trend trade them if they meet the criteria. But this right here, I mean, it's nice to be able to see, like, I can just look at this list and be like, oh, oh, Tesla looks like great for a short, easy to borrow. I can short this, I don't have to worry about getting in and out of a trade, or being able to get into a short position. So, that's a nice thing. I mean, and then, of course, the way that you can do, like these are all just back tested things today. Uh, but this is how I set my charts up. So like I have like my daily chart here. So if I'm looking just through, like if I'm scanning the night before, now I do this on my TC2000. I do a lot of my scanning on there now. I don't do hardly any scanning here on ThinkorSwim, but some of you will. Some of you won't want to use TC2000. Some of you will want to use ThinkorSwim. And you can go to your scans, right? I mean, I've got scans that I use. I have a lot more on my live account just because of the fact that um, you can't use studies into your scans for the paper account, which is what we're recording this tutorial on. But again, like I have liquid gainer scans, so at any point I can change my watch list to like I just want to see stocks that are up 3% or more, right? And this is during the day. Like this stock will automatically update, or this list will automatically update throughout the day. And if I want to be able to look and see how first off, I want to see what the stock's daily is. So if this don't look good here, I am not even going anywhere else. I'm not going to my active trader tab, right? If I don't like the pattern on this, I don't like the trend, I don't like the price action, I don't like any of it. Yeah, I don't even bother going to my active trader tab. So, but this is how I set my charts up, and this is how you can set your charts up too to make it really simple. Now, if you really want this layout and you don't want to do it yourself, I can share this workspace, right? I can share it, and I believe I can add all my additional. I think I can add all my additional um, indicators as well. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll post a link in the description for the YouTube video, and you can just click on that and then download it into your ThinkorSwim. All right. So hopefully this kind of helps some people that are unfamiliar with ThinkorSwim. Um, Hopefully this helps any of my students who are choosing to use ThinkorSwim. I know it's really attractive because they have free commission trading. So yeah, obviously free sounds good. Um, it's when you stop and realize that you're giving up, your order flow, right? You're not going to get as good of fills as you would normally if you were paying um, a commission. But again, a year ago, Ameritrade was charging commissions, and you were still selling your order flow. So again, I guess at least at this point. But if you're swinging, it's not going to really matter. But if you're swing trading and you're using ThinkorSwim, it's fine. I mean, you could do some real good damage based off of um, just having your indicators there. The only thing you really need to add to this would be maybe stochastics. So again, like I said, I don't like Bollinger Bands on this. So we can add a full stochastic. We can go down here, we can click this. Now remember, we need to change our day period to 5. All right, because we're looking for things that are going to happen. Now, if you're strictly swinging, right, you might want to have a long. If you're more towards investing, you might want to have something longer, like 14 or 50. All right, but right now, because we do swing and we're using swings for our day trading ideas, I like to keep a smaller day period. So we can go ahead and we can click OK and then click apply. Now look, all I care about stochastic is if it's above 80, it's overbought. If it's below 20, it's oversold. That's all I care about. Like, I don't really care about the rest of it. I just want that number, right? Like if they just give me a number instead of all these lines, I'd be much happier. But this is how I set my charts up, so I get to see when I have higher than average volume, and I can see all my price action. I can see everything I need to see to let me know whether a stock looks like it's something I would like to get into. So hopefully this video helps you. I'm sorry that it turned out to be an hour-long video, but hopefully this will be helpful to other people. All right, thanks.